We're on the campus of Kenyon College in the Gund, in a beautiful, open, light-filled lobby. Just to the left of the door is a life-size sculpture, a bronze, by the contemporary artist Kiki Smith, called Her. The sculpture consists of a standing, nude woman. She holds, although very lightly, a small deer. The deer's back is against her belly, so that we're looking at both of them in a way that is completely unexpected.
She's standing slightly hunched, her head leaning ever so gently forward. It seems just so that the deer that she's holding can stretch its neck across her shoulder and rest. Or perhaps she's carrying the weight of a deer that no longer has life. Its body seems somewhat lifeless. We can see its abdomen. Its front legs are stretching forward, its back legs dangle, and that awkward craning of the neck is so mysterious and seems a little bit awkward and uncomfortable. And if we move around to the right, we see the deer seems to be in a state of repose. And so there's this enchanting ambivalence about the relationship with the human being who's holding her.
There are two paths that I can take when I look at this. One is otherworldly, that seems mythic or out of time, or the embodiment of a folk tale, perhaps. There is something magical about this. Or I can try to read this in a more literal light. In that case, the deer is dead, but also there's this unexplained ability for the deer to be held so lightly. And I start to read the seriousness of the human figure's face, and it opens up a sense of humanity's responsibility to nature, its relationship to nature, whether or not that's harmful or playful. And there is this kind of openness to interpretation.
I think that there are a few different contexts in which to read this. One is the context of the language of myth and folklore. As we know, Kiki Smith drew eclectically from mythology, from folkloric traditions, to conceptualize her figures and her compositions. But I think we can also frame it in the context of the here and now, because she is in our space. We are in her space. She's life-size. We can stand here in close proximity to her. Her form is impossibly smooth. Kiki Smith has achieved that in part by paring down the range of textures. We've identified two, one being the incredibly smooth surface of her skin, and the other the texture of the fur on the deer that is also replicated in the hair that is flush to her head. There's very little articulation of texture around the eyes and the mouth of the human and also the deer. So she's conjuring something naturalistic about these figures. And at the same time, they seem archetypal in a way.
There is a kind of universal element to it through its smoothness, through its lack of the sense that this woman has aged through time. There are no wrinkles, there are almost no surface details. It reminds me of the work of her father, Tony Smith, who is also really interested in a kind of ideal geometry. And here we have a kind of ideal geometry, but of the human figure.
She also, at certain phases of her career, was looking at other artists. One that comes to mind is Paul Manship. And we do have a sculpture by Paul Manship that has a theme that is coincidentally in conversation, we could say, with this sculpture. It's a sculpture of an archer and an antelope. A very different relationship between human and animals being expressed. What is that relationship? What is the power dynamic between the human and animal here? Has she eliminated a power dynamic? Are we seeing something more symbiotic?
Manship was drawn to myth as well, and that begins to frame this sculpture in mythology and perhaps the story of the huntress Diana. If we follow that line of thought, has this deer been slain? Is it being regenerated in some way?
There are so many possibilities. It doesn't tell us a story, it just gives us the inspiration and the pieces and the tools to imagine multiple stories. And therein, I think, really lies the power of myth. Kiki Smith is so adept at realizing that language of myth in visual sculptural form. And it's right by the entrance where students and faculty pass through. Some of them may walk by without noticing her. But if you take the time to look at her carefully, all of these different stories come to life.